Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by the Transact Card, Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 553 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Clint Steele. And if you want to hear a story about how to take chiropractic from pain-based to brain-based, stay tuned. Welcome back. Another episode of Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Clint Steele coming in with me. Over the moon about this one, man. This is a sponsorship edition with NeuroInfiniti. Do you want to let them know what the website is quick?
Yeah, actually, we just updated our websites, brainbasedhs.com. Brain-Based Health Solutions is our new name. So brainbasedhs.com. So
the reason I bring that up before I do any intros, because I want people to go over there right now, brainbasedhs.com, and take a test drive of the website and click through, schedule your call with Clint and see if there's anything that he might be able to do to facilitate you. I know he has a live workshop coming up in Utah. He'll be at Life Vision at the end of September, and he'll be at Chiro Life in Minnesota over the next couple months. So check Clint out, send him some DMs, blow this dude up, and get on with what he's doing with brain-based chiropractic. So now that we're here, I'd let everybody know our big why. Why do we do what we do over at Chiro Hustle? Man, it's important stuff. We protect freedom of speech. We were just talking a bit geopolitically off camera about like some of the things that are going on around us and what we need to really do. And first things first is protect our amendments. And we've never censored anyone on this show. And I think that stands loud and proud. And, you know, we perpetuate the truth about chiropractic. And I know that's something that you love too, also, Dr. Clint.
Absolutely.
And the truth is that our rights to medical freedom and family health freedom are under fire. And if we don't tell the truth about chiropractic, someone else will make up a story about us and they'll take the narrative. So a couple of the interviews I did earlier, I said, look, that's why we're documenting chiropractic. That's why we're doing the show, because it's going to have posterity and semblance of distinction. If anybody ever wanted to come in and say, hey, we're going to change chiropractic. No, you can't, because we documented it. We know what chiropractic is. So that's really one of the big whys behind it. Plus, you know, protecting the sacred trust, chiropractors just need to know about it. And if you're a young DC, you don't know what the sacred trust is, you have to go and research that immediately. Stop this interview, go and do your search and find out what BJ Palmer's last words were. Go and find out what the sacred trust is like now. And then subluxation-based chiropractic, it's near and dear to us because it is the ethical standard, I believe, for philosophically based chiropractic. And we have to stay to our roots, man. If we don't stick to like our cornerstones, then the house falls. So subluxation-based chiropractic, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And that's big stuff. That's the big idea, and all else follows, as we say. So Dr. Clint Steele, welcome to episode 553.
553, baby. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, long time coming again. I always enjoy our conversations, chiropractic related and otherwise. And I always think that it's a really good format for you to get your message out. So I can't do another episode with you until we at least tell people the Kirby vacuum story. And then we'll get into brain-based chiropractic and all this other stuff we want to discuss.
The Kirby vacuum cleaner story. Man, if you guys have ever owned a Kirby vacuum cleaner, they're amazing, right? They're awesome vacuum cleaners, but they suck to sell. Like they're not fun to sell. And guys, this is how bad I didn't want to get back. I was in practice for 17 years, quit because all I saw in my practice was basically pain, right? Neck pain, low back pain. I was sick and tired of it. I used to have a full head of hair. I was stressed out because the other problem was not only was I seeing people only for pain, which I knew chiropractic was about so much more, but people would leave once their pain was gone. And we know chiropractic is amazing when people get adjusted regularly throughout their life, right?
Amen.
And so I was constantly looking for new patients, always, right? The term PVA, patient visit average. How many times does a patient see you before they leave, never to be seen again, right? I was 12. The industry average, by the way, is 10. Not only a poor healthcare model, but a poor business model. Just think, where would McDonald's be today, or where would Coca-Cola be today if someone just bought their product 10 times and then they stopped? Like they would be constantly looking for new people, new customers, right?
That's burnout.
And that's where we are as a profession right now, the majority of the profession, unfortunately. And that was me. So I quit. Get this though. I had 17,000 patient files, and I still needed more new patients to pay the bills because most of those were gone, right? They were never going to return. And so I quit. I said, I'm done. I'm never doing this again. And about 3 years later, I set out to perform 1 million acts of kindness the year later and hit 2.8 million acts of kindness. Wow. It was awesome, but it didn't make any money. And so I said, all right, I've got to do something to start generating some income again, because I'd spent all my retirement savings, all that stuff. And I didn't want to get back into chiropractic. And so I started selling Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door.
So the before I jump more into the Kirby thing with you, money's like new patients. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And it's like, it's not how many you get, it's how many you retain.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, because I've done hundreds upon hundreds of chiropractic marketing events. Okay. And I meet all walks of life, and they come up to me and they're like, so I do this on my own.
Yep.
And I just have my wife walks on my back.
Yep.
You heard those before?
Oh, you hear them all the time. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's your response to something like that when it comes to what you're interested in today, like the brain-based chiropractic?
You know, I think the common denominator here is, people are going to do that. Some people walk up and they'll do this right in front of me, right? They'll do the whole thing. I say, do you actually know what you're doing though? Like, do you actually know what's going on here? Right? Do you know that this affects your brain? What you're doing is actually affecting your brain function, either in a positive way or a negative way.
And you don't know.
But you don't know, do you? And they're like, no, I guess I probably should stop doing that. You think? I'm like, yeah, you think? Right? And so then, but ultimately though, as you've learned, Jim, is that leads to a conversation, right? Where now you can start to educate these people.
And you don't want to berate them or make them feel dumb, but like, I'm like, so you let your wife that weighs 2 bills walk on your spine, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, not saying that your wife shouldn't be 2 bills, but I'm just saying like she's walking on your neurology.
Right.
And
like, I mean, that's part of your brain, right? You understand this is part of your brain that's happening here, right? And I think that's where a lot of people miss the boat, including, unfortunately, chiropractors, right? A lot of chiropractors, because, you know, the whole idea behind the subluxation and the chiropractic adjustment is ultimately, you know, and we're seeing this research now with Heidi Havik coming out and so many more. There's others coming out. But ultimately, this chiropractic adjustment and removing the subluxation actually has a higher effect. It's not just about the spine, it's about the brain. And this is why we see miracles. This is why we've seen miracles, although unfortunately, in many cases, not consistently, because we're not actually measuring the brain and we're not actually tracking what these chiropractic adjustments are doing to the brain, whether it's improving it or not. Right? And that's the key factor. And so to expand on the story, I sold Kirby vacuum cleaners for about 3 months, and I got a letter from my grandmother who basically said it was a 3-page long, both sides, so 6 pages total. Basically, the line that I remember is, I'm ashamed of you, and you should be ashamed of yourself for not living to your potential. And I hated my grandmother for about 4 days. And on the 5th day, I said, she's right. And that's when I got back into chiropractic. Unfortunately, and the story goes along. I don't know if it gets better, but a couple years later, my grandmother, the one that wrote that letter, came down with dementia, right? She started suffering from dementia. She was in a home. I would go and visit her. She forgot who I was. She didn't know who I was. And they were actually doing, Jim, if you've ever seen anyone go through dementia, they had flashcards for her. And these flashcards were like a picture of an orange or a banana or a football, and asking her what these things were. And she didn't know. And so there I am 2 years back into practice under what I call as a brain-based chiropractor. I was seeing things like Crohn's disease reverse. I was seeing anxiety reverse. In fact, I was known as the anxiety doctor because I was reversing anxiety in 6 and 7 year olds up to 40 and 50 year olds. I was seeing depression reverse, but I didn't know how to care for dementia, right? I had no idea. And so what happened was she passed away, and about 6 years later, this lady walks into my office. Her name is Alice, and she was suffering from anxiety, from depression. She had neck pain. She also had high blood pressure, and she had dementia. And her medical doctor told her, well, I can give you medication for all this other stuff, but there's nothing we can do for dementia because it's age related. It's due to your age. Okay. Which is a bunch of crap. Right. And so I said to myself, listen, I don't know how to take care of dementia, but I know how to take care of her anxiety and her depression and her high blood pressure and her neck pain. And so that's what I'm going to do. Guess what happened? 6 months later, get this, Jim, she could not remember what she was talking about in the middle of a sentence, and her husband had to help her remember. In the middle of a sentence, she was forgetting. She couldn't finish the sentence. She couldn't remember her husband's name or kids' names. This is how bad this was. 6 months later, going through this protocol, okay, brain-based chiropractic protocol, her husband came in and gave me a hug and said, thank you for giving my wife back. Her dementia totally reversed. Okay. Now she's still seeing me. She's now 82 and a half. She's still fine, living her daily life. If she had followed her medical doctor's advice, I think she'd be where my grandmother is today. Mm-hmm. Okay. No doubt in my mind. So anyway, I had to finish that story, man.
No, I'm glad you did, and it brings up a topic for me. We've made 2 films on chiropractic. A lot of the audience probably obviously they don't know everything that I've ever done in my journey to get to where I'm at, but I came in as somebody that wanted to document this profession, and we've made 2 films. The first one's on the history and all the trials and tribulations within chiropractic, and that came out in 2016. It's called Chiropractic, the documentary. Real novel idea, because I was like, I was doing patient testimonials, okay, and I was like, this is cool for a practice, but we need a bigger story. So that's when we did that. But the second one, the reason I'm bringing this up is because our second movie is called Project Patient, and it's right in line with what you're talking about. We should redo it, but it was about PTSD and how chiropractic helped. It was about TBIs and how chiropractic helped. It was about addiction, depression, anxiety, and how chiropractic helped. So we took pain-based things conditions, and we followed these people. We followed them through full care plans, and we showed on scans doing surface EMGs, and they weren't getting high velocity adjustments. A couple of them were getting what do they call it? Prone specific, where they just go and they just do little pushes.
Yeah.
And I know there's a management company that does that system, but they just lay everybody down. They go, they just adjust down a little bit, not heavy moves. And the other one is torque release technique. One guy was doing torque release technique, and he was doing pre and post scans on them. And I'll tell you, the amount of tears shed at the end of that one from the people that actually went through these. We gifted all these people. We looked for them specifically, but we gifted all these people chiropractic to participate in our movie. And it was just so powerful when this lady with the TBIs changed her life. She could like start getting around and driving again.
Yeah.
She didn't have to lock herself in dark rooms anymore.
Yeah.
So when I came into like what you were doing now with this brain-based Chiro stuff, I'm like, bro, if we can like figure out how to get this message in front of more people, like this interview could change a lot of lives.
It can save lives. This is what I say when I in my emails and I in my a lot of my posts. Let's save more lives, because this is what chiropractic is about, right? It's about when you're utilizing chiropractic to its fullest. I'm not talking just pain-based chiropractic. I'm talking brain-based chiropractic. We actually save lives. I mean, that's the long and short of it right there.
82 years old and living.
I mean, and that's just one example. I've had at this point now, and this just happened over in the last couple of years, I've had 5 either full-blown Alzheimer's or dementia patients reverse. Okay. We've had Crohn's disease reverse. Like I said, we've had Parkinson's disease reverse. We've had people that have come in and said, you know what, I got a doc in Ohio. He shared a story with me about this young lady that basically came in and said, I'm ecstatic. Like, this care is amazing. It's awesome. And he says to her, he says, well, what do you mean? You want to know, like, what have you noticed in the change? And she said to him, she said, before I came in here, I was ready to commit suicide, and I would probably have done it by now. And he told me this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing, because, ultimately, Jim, you come down to one question: what coordinates every function in your entire body? Obviously the brain and nervous system, right? But you ask, what coordinates every decision you make in your life? What is it? It's the same thing. So we're transforming not only health, we're transforming lives through brain-based chiropractic.
Well, that's back to our pre-interview talk. I was like, that's why I've dedicated the last 15 years to this profession, because there has to be some level of truth that stands in the gap for what people need. And that's chiropractic. I probably don't need to like openly say this too frequently, but chiropractic is the last piece on the chessboard before it's checkmate.
Yeah.
And chiropractors are the last truth in any arena. And they just got like, hey, go be in the medical world. Chiropractic's never been medical.
Yeah.
And when chiropractors were kind of like sucked into like the medical world, that's when chiropractic lost its identity. And that's when people came in and started manipulating the diagnosis codes and putting insurance into it and doing all these things.
So we can get paid by insurance companies.
Yeah. But chiropractic was never an insurance gig. It was a cash-based gig where you come in, you keep the guy farming, you keep the lady like taking care of kids, and that's what chiropractic did. And I when I go out and tell the chiropractic story, I'm like, yeah, there was a guy named Harvey Lillard. Dude had a bump on the back of his neck or lower upper back. I'm like, I don't know where it was exactly because I wasn't there, but the dude got adjusted and restored his hearing.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then people thought chiropractors were ear doctors for a lot of years after that.
See, that's the thing. That's why I tell people, like, listen, chiropractic isn't about pain. And I share that story, and it's like jaws drop sometimes. You're what? Wait, what?
And people took horses and walked and freaking trains and steamboats to get to Davenport, Iowa, because they heard about this guy that could restore hearing.
Yep.
What the heck? And then we're like, oh, cool, man. You're into like what? Insurance? Okay. We'll take a little bit of our integrity away.
Yeah.
And
that's
we'll go play your game.
That's for docs listening, man. I was back in my 17-year pain-based practice. I was 99% insurance-based. When I opened back up 8-9 years ago, 100% cash. I make more money now than I ever did in my 17-year practice, except
Amen.
Insurance. Guys, it's not about that, right? It's not about that.
But it's about building that clarity in that story. So I think that's important for people to hear on today's segment too. You're going to Life Vision, right? End of the month.
Yep.
Speaking there.
I'm speaking, man. I'm speaking on stress, the brain, disease, and the chiropractic adjustment and the science that brings it all together.
Wow.
Very powerful. Every time I've done this talk anywhere I've gone, it's been standing room only. I remember in Michigan when I was speaking at MAC, we started off with basically the room full, And at the first break, it was like a 4-hour presentation. At the first break, we had a whole bunch, like people must have gone out and talked or something, because when we came back, we had the room full plus standing room all around the whole room. So
that's impact,
it's pretty
man.
powerful talk, man.
Yeah, I mean, just knowing that you have these opportunities coming up. I know you also said you have a workshop coming up in Utah in October.
Yeah. So what we do is we actually certify chiropractors as being what we call brain-based. Now, here's the thing. Most people will say, and when I say I'm a brain-based chiropractor to chiropractors, understand when I say I'm a brain-based chiropractor to chiropractors, they say, well, all chiropractic is about the brain. And yeah, absolutely. But you got to understand, most chiropractors don't focus on the brain. And so when you go out to the public and you say, I'm a brain-based chiropractor, guess what I get? Wait, what? What are you talking about? Chiropractors are about the spine and they're about pain. What are you talking about the brain? It opens up their mind. Because if you go out right now and you ask 100 people what chiropractic is about, 99 of them are going to say what?
Pain.
Neck and low back pain.
Pain.
Right? And so now what's happening, and this is what I tell docs, is people are dying right now in your community because they don't know the truth about their health. They don't know the truth about their brain. They don't know the truth about chiropractic, because unfortunately, most chiropractors are not sharing that. And that was me for 17 years, right? I didn't share the truth of chiropractic. We spoke earlier about the truth, right? We've got to get out and we've got to share the truth.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle. You know, I've been around this profession 15 years, and I've been fastidious in my approach to learn more and to keep on learning more and to keep on building connections and to keep on telling the story. And there was a time where I was listening to this guy talk. His name is Barry Anderson. I don't know if you know him. He was with a group called Everest. And they teach a great, solid, fundamental day 1, day 2 process where they teach people how to close cash. They teach them how to convert people for cash and how to sell a care plan and how to teach and educate. It's amazing stuff. But Barry was one of the founders of it. And he said, if we don't tell people the truth about chiropractic, someone else will sell them into drugs or surgery.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, you know, I think that that's just it, is brain-based chiropractic opens up a conversation, and the first person to shoot a chiropractor will be another chiropractor for saying something that makes them think a little bit. Like, what? You're brain-based chiropractic. We all are. Of course you are.
Yeah.
But words do matter.
Well, the other thing that I say to these guys that say, yeah, well, I'm a brain-based chiropractor too. All chiropractic is about the brain. Okay. Number one, are you measuring the brain? Are you measuring the nervous system? Okay. Because you mentioned earlier, SEMG, rolling thermal, all that stuff. Great. But see, the power of the brain and nervous system is in its adaptability. Okay. The power to adapt to stress and then recover once it's over. And so what most chiropractors are doing, they're measuring things in a static, relaxed state. Okay. Static, relaxed state is not true to life. People don't walk around like they're sitting in your office for 5 minutes while you measure them. That's not life. Okay. It's like a fire alarm goes off. You know, if I were to measure, I talk to docs all the time. I say, listen, if I were to measure your heart rate and it was 66 beats per minute, what would you say about your heart health? Well, it's good. Okay, fine. Now let's say the fire alarm goes off. What should happen to your heart rate? Should go up. And if it doesn't, is that a problem? And the answer is yes, absolutely. And my next question is, so do you know that? Do you know what their heart rate does when they're under stress? Yes or no?
No.
Do you know what their brain is doing under stress? Yes or no?
That's why
do you know what their respiration rate is doing under stress? Yes or no?
That's why they call it resting heart rate.
That's right. But same thing with rolling thermal, same thing with SEMG. I'm not saying don't do those, guys. Even X-rays, like I'm not saying don't do those.
That was my next question.
Because if you want to do them, do them.
How do you correlate what you're doing with the NeuroInfiniti with X-ray? How does that make sense? Because I know a lot of chiropractors are shooting films and they're looking at like a static snapshot. Exactly. And they're like, this is where your subluxation is. Yeah. And I mean, or this is where your DJD is, degenerative disc disease. And we need to start getting you on this many so this doesn't advance, blah, blah, blah. You know?
Yeah. The question is, what caused that degeneration in the first place? What caused that posture? If they're using X-rays for posture, what caused those postural imperfections to begin with, those postural distortions, right? Because if you're thinking that the posture just went bad because of posture, it's not. If you think a joint just fixated because a joint fixated, it's not. Something has to move that joint, right? And those are the muscles. But the muscles don't have a brain. What tells the muscles how to move that joint?
The neurology.
Comes back to the brain and nervous system. And that's all based on, Jim, that's based on how the brain perceives the environment. See, if the brain is perceiving the environment as a fire alarm going off, it's going to tighten the muscles, right? It's going to increase inflammation, which is going to lead to degenerative disc disease, right? It's going to lead to postural distortions. It's also going to lead to gut problems. It's also going to lead to immune system disorders. It's going to lead to reproductive issues.
Numbness and tingling.
If your brain is stuck in that survival mode, okay, our job as chiropractors is to downregulate their brain and nervous system. And so my question oftentimes comes back, you mentioned earlier TRT and some of those low force techniques, right? If someone is over aroused, if their nervous system is already overstimulated, what do you think a high force manual adjustment is doing to their already overstimulated nervous system? Dude, and here's the bigger question. If they can't recover and they can't downregulate on their own, what are you doing to their brain and nervous system then? Right? And so that's where the NeuroInfiniti comes in, because we can actually measure that. In lifetime, we measure adaptability. We measure brain waves, HRV, heart rate, respiration rate, skin conductance, hand temperature, and muscle tension of the traps during 4 different stressors. And then after each stress, we have the patient close their eyes and relax and see if they can downregulate. So going back to the heart rate, fire alarm goes off, what should happen to the heart rate? Should go up. And then let's say it's false alarm, you come back into the office, you're relaxing, we're joking about it, 10, 15 minutes later, what should happen to the heart rate? Should go down. If it doesn't, is that a problem? See, what we find with the NeuroInfiniti, when we're measuring this stuff, we have about 60 to 70% of the public that when they're under stress, their heart rate goes up. And then when they close their eyes to relax, guess what happens? Their heart rate goes up even more.
Do you think that's due because of unresolved ideas and thoughts and fears?
It's due to these 3 T's right here, man. Thoughts, trauma, toxins, right? So it could be a trauma, absolutely, that's created that. But usually it's an accumulation of all these 3 together. And so to your point, yeah, there's tons and tons of research that when people close their eyes and they're still thinking and their thoughts are and they're worried about something, because for example, we take them through a cognitive stretch, which is a math test, right? And then afterwards, close your eyes for 90 seconds. Let's see how you do. And then their heart rate goes up, their respiration rate goes up when it should be going down. That person's probably still thinking about that. Did I get that right? Did I look stupid? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that, right? They can never downregulate. And unfortunately, this is the problem right now with 90% of the public today, Jim. They're in an over-aroused state. They're overstressed. And that is the cause of over 90% of all disease. And it's the cause of 100% of all death. 100% of all death is due to the inability for the brain to be able to adapt to stress.
So you're talking to me about math problems.
Am I stressing you out?
No, I'm not a mathlete by any stretch. Like I have this cell phone over here. I punch little numbers in. It tells me what totally. The number is on the backside. But it made me think of something else. Have you run this in accordance with something like Brain Tap or something like a meditation program to see if like you could work like a meditation lifestyle into somebody while getting chiropractic care and then testing them on NeuroInfiniti?
this is what our whole program is about, right? Because a lot of chiropractors, they come in, especially straight chiropractors, like all I need to do is just adjust someone and they're good, right?
Of course you can do that.
Guys, listen, the stress that we are under today is way, way, way higher than it was 40 or 50 years ago when we could just do an adjustment and their nervous system was able to adapt suddenly. Okay. Because what happens is they leave the office after a chiropractic adjustment, and they're getting on their cell phones, right? They're calling their spouse who they're already fighting with. They're looking at their bank account because they don't have enough money to pay the bills. They're whatever, right?
They're searching on Google Map. They're playing videos. They're checking Pandora.
So
like
all
they're Venmoing the babysitter.
So these stress patterns just continue, right? And so what you talked about earlier with brain tap, yeah. So we use brain tap as part of our care plans. We use meditation as part of our care plans. We use lifestyle changes. We got to get them. One of the biggest ones is diet.
Yeah.
Like we got to get these people off gluten. We got to get them off dairy. We got to get them off soy. We got to get them off corn and corn byproducts. We got to get them off GMOs. We got to get them off seed oils. We got to get them off margarine. Like some of these people are still eating margarine. Like what the heck, man? Like this is the stuff we have to do.
You know why? Because it's always been done that way in that house.
That's right.
It's like old wives' tales living on and on and on.
But to your point, man, these are the things that we've got. One of the most important things that we've got to do, believe it or not, get them to breathe properly. Most people don't even know how to breathe properly. Most people, even when you make them aware of how to breathe properly, they can't do it. They can't do it. If you tell them to breathe with their diaphragm, seriously, you're talking about 60 to 70% of the public. And I have 20-something-year-olds that come in that I say, listen, you're breathing with your upper chest and your shoulders. That's a survival mode breathing pattern. That's sending a message to your brain that you're in survival mode. We got to change that. So you just did it right now. You just breathed with your chest and shoulder.
I did.
Okay. Now let's see if you can breathe with your belly, with your diaphragm. Okay. No, that's still all chest, shoulders. Okay. So that's something that we got to work with people, because when they can breathe with their diaphragm, especially if they breathe 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, that's sending a message to the brain. Hey, we can relax. We can down regulate.
And that resets the vagus tone.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
So
I mean,
all kinds of stuff like that.
I learned stuff because I ask a lot of questions, and that's really like the blessing of having a show like this is if I'm curious, I get experts, and, I get a guy like you that loves what you do. And I can ask you like, what about meditation with this? What about x-ray with this? Yep. What does it look like for somebody with this going on? Like, and you can, we teach people to breathe. We teach people to remove crap out of their diets. We adjust them.
Exactly.
We adjust them.
So, and you've got proof too. You've got proof that they've got a brain problem. Going back to your x-ray thing, I didn't even finish that, but when you take an x-ray and you take a NeuroInfiniti, it's called a stress response evaluation, and you show that their brainwave patterns are in high beta, low theta, which is a stress state. Now they understand why their posture's off, right? Because now their brain can't communicate properly with their body. Now they know why they've got inflammation in there, because when they're in a stress state, inflammation increases, right? Now they know why they're getting sick every 3 months, right? I mean, now they know why they can't reproduce, right? Because they're, the story that I tell docs and people and my patients, I say, listen, if your brain thinks the fire alarm is going off, does it worry about reproducing? No,
you're not
getting, it doesn't worry about getting an erection, right? If your brain is thinking the fire alarm is going off, is it worried about digesting food properly? No, it's worried about surviving, right? And so now it starts to all make sense to the patient, and they're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Why didn't anyone explain this to me before?
And by the way, your L3 is like subluxated like I've never seen off your x-ray. So I need to adjust that too. So now you're less stressed, and now you can get an erection again.
There you go, man. There you go.
So what it sounds like is this helps with sensory. The program helps with recondition people's eating behaviors and their diets. And it helps with reconditioning people and adapting people to a better quality environment with the way that they think, the way that they act, and the way that they carry on with their regular lifestyle.
Well, here's the deal is chiropractors right now today, okay, we provide the adjustment, and then some chiropractors are doing supplements, they're doing vibrational plates, they're doing we talked earlier about oxygen, therapy. Chiropractors are doing all these things. Okay.
You know why?
Bottom line is this. Okay. Even functional medicine, even nutritional supplementation at a foundational level, all that has to do with changing brain and nervous system function.
Oh, it does.
And so what I tell docs is, listen, how do you know if you're doing vibration plates or you're doing this or that it's actually moving that patient's brain and nervous system patterns in the right direction or wrong direction? See, and that's the big question. And ultimately, we've got to come down, whether you're doing functional medicine, you're doing nutrition, you do vibe plates, you do whatever else, at the foundational level, we've got to come back to what is coordinating all these functions. And it comes back to the brain.
I mean, analogous to like driving a car. Like if you drive a car, you never check the oil, the engine blows. And if you're driving your body around and you never check your brain balance, the brain blows.
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of times when people, like, there's a reason there's a dipstick inside your engine, so you can like put it in there and check and see if you had enough oil, if you need to add some. And I think that people in general, they need to know what's going on with their nervous system more. It's like right in our body. It's the one thing that continuously motivates our body and gives us like animation to life, and nobody checks in on it. Nobody looks at it. It's like the elephant in the freaking room.
It's insane. Jim, you know how many people I've talked, and I don't care if I'm talking to a medical doctor or a nurse or a lay person, and I ask them what coordinates every function in your body. And they say, well, my brain and nervous system. Okay. So if you have high blood pressure, do you have a cardiovascular system problem or do you have a brain communication problem? If your brain is coordinating the function of your heart, have you ever checked your brain to see if it's functioning properly?
Wow.
And like, oh my gosh, no, never have.
Yeah, because, one of my good friends, Matt, will always like quote me. And one of the things I tell him is you got to look in obvious places if you want information.
Right.
Like you have to be like, where is it? Go find it. And it can't be like, I'm going to get 10 books or 20 books and I'm going to just sift through all this information. No, go look in the obvious place that you're going to find what you need now.
Yeah.
You can buy all the books in the world, but if it's just one sentence that you need, go find that one sentence.
Yep.
NeuroInfiniti, man, let's close out and tell people why they should get one, how they can get one, and why they should come check out your workshop in Utah.
Ultimately, if chiropractors are watching this, I'm going to ask you one question. What body system ultimately is chiropractic about? Hopefully you're not saying musculoskeletal system. Hopefully you're saying brain and nervous system. And I know brain is part of the nervous system, but guys, when you say nervous system to the public, it's kind of like woo-woo. It's kind of like whatever. But when you say brain, guess what happens? Their eyes open up and say, wait, what are you talking about? Right? Because they have grandparents now that are suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. They have sisters and brothers that are, getting Parkinson's disease. They have, anxiety. I mean, we have 7 and 8 year olds coming in with anxiety problems, right?
And freaking reverse curves of their spine and their neck.
Yeah. Yeah. which is due to the brain's inability. Don Reno, measuring outcomes is in as many ways as possible will change how the public perceives and benefits from chiropractic. Yeah, when you put the lead on your head, so again, the NeuroInfiniti basically measures at the highest level brain waves. As soon as you put this lead on someone's head, on a patient's head, it takes you from being a back doctor to being a brain doctor. Okay, which ultimately is if we're brain and nervous system specialists, then we should be measuring the brain and nervous system, but we should be doing it in live time, measuring the adaptability, because that's the superpower of the brain and nervous system, is the ability to perceive the environment and then adapt and change physiologic function. If we can't do one or both of those or a combination, we've got problems. And so that's what the NeuroInfiniti measures. It allows us to care for patients' brain and nervous system patterns in the right way, including the right type of intensity of adjustment, frequency of adjustment, length of the care plan, post-adjustment, what are we doing? Because there's research showing that if you perform the right chiropractic adjustment, there's a 20-minute window post-adjustment where the brain is wide open to change. But if you're changing those waves in a wrong direction, okay, that's not good.
Yeah.
But then also anything else, okay, everything else that we do. So that's all the stuff that we teach in our workshops, and that's how we certify docs to become what we call brain-based docs. We change the communication. We change the patient's perception about what you do in being a back doctor to being a brain doctor. We teach you how to assess the brain and nervous system in a dynamic fashion and not a static fashion. We teach you how to develop care plans, how to give a report of findings, how to get these patients to accept care, and then refer other people and pay cash for it. That's what we do.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I think that this interview has given people an opportunity to learn more about what you're up to with the brain-based chiropractic. If people wanted to connect with you, where's some leads we can send people to?
Yeah, you can catch me on Facebook. You can go to our Facebook group. It's called Pain to Brain. Pain to Brain Chiropractic is there. You can also go to our website. We mentioned earlier, brainbasedhs.com. Brainbasedhs.com. We've got tons of videos on there. We got free resources. We've got my calendar link in there. We've got Dee Dee's calendar link in there. If you guys want to schedule a call, learn more about our brain-based practice blueprint.
So go get your guys' free resources. Go to brainbasedhs.com. Go check out the Facebook group, Pain to Brain Chiropractic, and hit Clint up on Facebook. It's been a real honor to have you on tonight. I had a lot of fun. I think that your systems will make other people's practices more fun. And if people do what I call the ELF principle, make it easy, lucrative, and fun, you're going to have a better quality of life with your practice. And I think that's what I think that's what we've covered today. Make it ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun.
That's what we do, man.
And that's what it sounds like, man. So Pain to Brain Chiropractic on Facebook, brainbasedhs.com. Dr. Clint Steele, you're episode 553 of the podcast. I appreciate you for sponsoring the show, and I look forward to hearing how your life vision talk goes and how your workshop in Utah goes, and then how things go for you as you get up to Chiro life in Minnesota over the next couple months, man.
Awesome. Appreciate you, brother, and everything you're doing, man. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll close out by telling everybody you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.